While there may be different match types, companies that give advantages to some of your units, even though advantages can only be clearly seen as numbers compared to stat improvements, it isn't what will keep a player in the game unless a sense of achievement is given. But creating badges or achievements for actions you have done is only a small reason, which usually a level system that gives rewards to this new content, ability, or improvements to your unit and gameplay is more preferred. I am not talking about the credits in Theater of War. Those don't count, as they disappear after the war ends. Compare this to a Ubisoft product such as Tom Clancy Rainbow Six Vegas 2 and Hawk, which you can gain points regardless of being online or offline, so that every single action or minute of your time is worth it. Having a reward system for an RTS isn't hard to think, such as extra content that has its own pros and cons, such as existing items already in the game or other new content explained later. The problems with EndWar that although its offline side is okay, the movement didn't follow suit online. Even though gameplay is the same, it's a problem to find and meet other players diverse. A somewhat similar problem to the PC version of Tom Clancy Hawk as well. Ubisoft overall needs to look at good games to this company of heroes to find better ways to get people together, such as a friend list, chat channels, and a simple match tab for types of missions. The Theater of War online version needs serious improvements to avoid stresses. One is that before entering they should tell us if the players are in Theater of War servers, like in Hawk for co-op play, and also tell us in as well. So to avoid if a player leaves, you don't have to search every possible battle to see if there is an opposing player in there. Second would be a reason to stay, so you get a chance to meet a player diverse, such as playing against bots that their level of difficulty is reflected upon your success and failure, so you get a challenge, but not too easy or too difficult. If the player does come, would probably not be at an advantage or disadvantage with the opposing player with bot difficulty changing instead of something being fixed. Although the set rep is better than Company of Heroes tactical map that you can have a bunch of individuals to separate attacks to enemy units, it's unfortunately more difficult to order infantry and cover, and unit builders should find a way into sit rep so that when playing you can spend more time in it. Deep Strike was good at this attempt, but suffers two problems. One is how, as this wasn't explained in the game, and the other execution, as this requires enough command points, 10 maximum, then deploy riflemen, and before the transport doors open you to select an area to change this place to drop, but can't be changed if you made a mistake. Perhaps make it simpler, and just have it as an outside support ability to select an aerial uplink. The camouflage option in the battalion shouldn't just be for art, but also to improve combat, making units stronger or less detectable. I would like to see a way to camouflage gunships as well by orienting them to land and may be more dangerous to ground fire, but could be used as an ambush to pounce on enemy units behind a fortress or hill. Besides stealth, combat should perhaps be improved by selecting a particular skin would also change how the unit performs, such as if you went for snow camouflage, you get better maneuverability or don't lose maneuverability because of the snowy terrain. It doesn't have to be elaborate collecting. Perhaps a territory should control give you resources like fuel, munitions, and metals to upgrade, build your new units, or rebuild units used as casualties. Perhaps additionally, add something like a military population that are gained by trained troops. Like you get those soldiers with the highest rank by sending one of your own veterans home to provide you with troops less than the veteran troops level, but higher than level 1. To balance this, if you are losing, you get veterans back as an option, and also the principle that when you have few territories left, units will fight better against the enemy. It was good to see units that we can understand what the unit could beat or lose to. It would be nice to see more unit types in the game, such as airborne infantry and vehicles parachuted down, heavy anti-air vehicles, anti-tank vehicles, and transportable helicopters for troop movements. Similar to Deep Strike, but the helicopter is a unit to pick up troops like the transport and hopes to shoot down the enemy, unlike this and other game helicopter transports. They should also try making varieties of the same unit, like for the American Joint Strike Force tank, start with the Abraham tank first, and eventually the tank we see in the game, or maybe add a further better tank. But they all should be able to share upgrades depending on their variety of weapons on them. When the developer on the commentary reviews quote the need for speed of changing parts, they should improve it further by having options of the type of weapons on them that give them advantage, disadvantage, such as a more powerful gun that loses the speed of reloading, or add more devices on a make it slower, like have one engineer squad carrying a rocket launcher and landmines, resulting in increased speed. But remove the rocket launchers on another squad, you get something like a combat engineer that moves faster but aren't the best against vehicles in a straight fight. As said before about more unit varieties, they should do the same for an outside support, such as having an airstrike or ground unit ability of the heavy anti-air vehicle to perform anti-air on enemy airstrikes to avoid damage. They should cost the same as a level 1 airstrike, and players can counter the anti-airstrike with one of theirs, but you may run out of command points if you even had enough to do an airstrike and a counter airstrike. Other supports could be a guided missile or JDAM that destroys a building but requires riflemen equipped with targeting lasers, or perhaps call in aircraft carriers if it can be in range, such as starting an attack over sea that your bases wouldn't reach, but the aircraft carrier will supply your air support with the level of the strike you can do, by both upgrading your ability to call and the aircraft carrier to carry the particular level, which should cost as much as a deep strike of 10 command points to call the aircraft carrier for balance. There should also be a variety of the aircraft and force recon vehicles to choose instead of one overall, because the American Thunderbolt wasn't designed with slower speed for nothing, it was used for ground support. With this, they should have versions you can choose from and place them to switch in with the different levels, but are constrained for the weapons they can use, such as Thunderbolt 2 level 1 strike should have just used the heavy machine gun, the second uses rockets, and the third anti-tank missiles. Other aircrafts will have different ways, such as the game's aircraft at the level 3 airstrike is a large explosive device. The different aircraft units should have their strengths and weaknesses, as I said, for Thunderbolt being better ground support, but doesn't do effective damage to aircraft and is slower and vulnerable to heavy anti-air strikes. Aircraft and force recon vehicles perhaps allow modifications and give you responsibilities to care for them. If they are destroyed during battle, tasking you to rebuild the forces up for use. I like the system of whom, what, and where, but there are situations that would make it easier if it was different. The calling all unit selecting does work for me. That you speak the unit assigned number, unit 5, tell the action, go to, attack, or secure, then the location or enemy, Bravo, hostile 3. It's just some outside supports having it used the other way around would help much better. Example for a situation of outside support is that I have 8 command points, and I can go up to a level 3 airstrike capability if I wanted. But I want 2 level 1 airstrikes, each costing 4 command points, but instead give 1 level 3 airstrike that costs 6 command points. Instead, I recommend changing and having its level spoken first, such as level 1 airstrike, hostile 4. This applies also to force recon EMP strike. From add more unit and unit variety option suggestion of seeing different squads carrying different equipment, this would require readjustments of deploying a unit based on being the highest or lowest rank. For someone like their call sign could be put into the game, even though voices such as deploy, gunship, matador is not the best choice, since you might want to recheck the unit you want to deploy. This is why I would go for gunship, matador, deploy. But before saying the unit's code name, that when highlighting the unit, you are to be shown information on the screen of the name, rank, and strength of its attack, defense, speed, plus abilities represented as symbols. To improve, I would like that voice commands deal with unit abilities like the command UAV drone, such as Unit 6 ability Zulu. This is a small request and I have no trouble being dropped, but thought that if the opposing player landing zones are not occupied, you could try to control the landing zones, resulting in cutting off the opposing player's deployment logistics, unless that player controls an up and having the forward CMD ability for a new dropping zone. If not, then the game ends sooner, requires destroying the remaining units unless the landing zone is retaken. I think for balance, they should slightly tweak the gunships to do more damage to infantry out of cover. Anything else is more bugs, like nuclear gliding gunships act funny when engaging, being that they turn different directions, either taking a long time to engage or not at all, but stuck until you give new orders. Infantry and forests have problems when not using the minimap, that the actual game screen to maybe move it forward is instead in order to sort to the spot they are in now, compared to where the mouse is pointed at. Thanks for listening, hope you enjoyed it.
The environment can be your friend, or it can be your enemy. Use it to your advantage.